Cool.
Remove that. This was a little bit of a struggle, but I'm so happy to be on this new software. It's going to make life a lot better. And we have today's big news is going to be we got Johnny Kelly and Kenny Hickey of Typo Negative and I Am coming on. They'll be on in about a half an hour. And good to see you, Joey. It's been a minute.
You too.
Brian, we got Brian here too. Brian, actually, I asked Brian specifically to join this stream because Brian happened to be at the venue where Kenny and Johnny met Dime and Phil from Pantera, or Dime and Rita. So he has some funny stories, and I think he has some. Here, I'm gonna take Brian out until he's ready. No, I don't want to remove him because here. Let me see if I can. Yeah. Well, I don't want to remove him because I'm afraid he won't. I won't be able to put him back. So I'll just leave his blank screen there. But yeah, so the reason we have Kenny and Johnny on today is for the 30th anniversary of Bloody Kisses, which is Did you have a chance to listen to it at all, Joey?
Yeah, I've heard some of it before.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Yeah, I know it's probably not your thing specifically, but
it's not. But you know what's interesting? I've actually seen the band live before.
Oh, nice. Okay,
it was quite a few years ago. I think it was like 2003 or something like that. But yeah, my only real memory of seeing them live, like Peter Steele was a giant and he scared the crap out of me. And
okay.
So
his biceps are like he had huge biceps.
Yeah, he's got like a flipping chain for a guitar strap and stuff. And I'm like, this band is
Banter,
another
level. I think it was on his left arm.
Yeah, they're crazy. The thing I always loved about them is their sense of humor. They just like always had such a great sense of humor about stuff. Like if you listen to their stuff, like they have an album called The Origin of Feces.
I've got that original cover.
Yeah, and the opening part, I didn't realize. I saw Kenny talk about this in an interview, but I thought it was a live album. It's not actually a live album. It's just they did that part at the beginning as kind of like a stage thing where they have the crowd chanting "You suck," and then Peter goes, "Hey, you paid $15 to get in here. Who's the real asshole?"
And it really is it's a great CD.
I mean, all their stuff is great. Like that album and Bloody Kisses are my favorite.
Yeah,
but all their stuff has good stuff. And Bloody Kisses, the thing, one of the things I want to talk to them a little bit about today is like that the sense of humor that they had, like the song "We Hate Everyone," right? Like the lyrics to that are so pertinent in today's political atmosphere because it's just all about, the cancel. It's really like about cancel culture. He's like right-wing commies, leftist Nazis point their fingers, rumors linger, and he's got this whole thing. He's like, and then it's like, we don't care what you think.
I love their version of Hey Joe.
Yeah. Oh, and Paranoid, the slowed down Paranoid.
Was that on the Nativity in Black or?
It's on Origin of Feces.
Okay, I'll have to go back and. It's been a while. You get to a certain point when you get my age. And I was talking with a friend about this, who's my age. It's like our filing cabinet up here with music is full. Sorry.
Oh, we got a guest on the stream.
Oh my gosh. This guy weighs 18 pounds.
What's his name?
Elvis.
Elvis. I love it. I love cats. It's so my neighbor, I have this. I got to tell this story real quick because it's
really,
so good.
Dude, come over here.
My neighbor's cat's name is Kiki, and I have this little air conditioning area out back. And the other day, I'm sitting at my kitchen table and watching Kiki, and she's like, I can see her hunting, like she's hunting. There's definitely mice like living in my air conditioner. So the other day, I cleaned out my back patio, and I specifically cleaned out the air conditioner area for Kiki because I saw her hunt because there was like boxes and stuff in the way. And I'm not even kidding you. Yesterday, I get home and there's a dead mouse on my porch. She caught that thing, and she's like, "Hey, look what I got for you." I love it.
Well,
Brian, by the way, it's nice to meet you.
Oh yeah, dude. It's nice meeting you.
think this is the first time I've actually seen your face. So.
Yeah, it's me. I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told Eric what I would love to do eventually is a stream like this where we have like the whole crew on, like a TMZ style thing, like maybe once a month or something.
Sure.
Where everyone brings like their favorite band or a review they did, you know, something to that effect where it's like we've got you know, we all come together because we have a bunch of people. I was thinking about it today, like Brian's in Texas, Joey, you're out in Minnesota, right?
Yep.
I'm in LA, Eric's in Salt Lake. I think we have someone in like Wyoming. We used to have someone in the UK too. So we have people all over the country, and it's like it's kind of cool because it's almost like we have like correspondence in all the different regions, you know.
Johnny Kelly lives he's
in Dallas, right?
He's in a place called Aubrey, so it's like a small town north of Dallas. So he's probably about 50 minutes north of me. And I shot a bunch of high school football games up in Denton for a team called Denton Geyer. Their quarterback was highly recruited by OU, and so he went to OU. So I was spending a lot of time up in Denton, and Johnny's town is like 15 minutes north of where I was. Like a lot of Friday nights last year, I was up in Denton, and Johnny's like was like 15 minutes north of me there. So
Kenny was just on the he's a little bit early, but Kenny was just on the Zoom. I didn't
What time was he supposed to come on?
I told him 3. So in the next 20 minutes. But the thing is, I was telling Raquel, their PR lady, this morning, I confuse people because I set the Zooms for the bands an hour after we start the stream. And so like with Raquel, I was like, yo, here's the link for the stream today with Type O. And I think she kind of tripped a little bit because the time that I had it starting was like an hour before the time that she told the bands. So she was like, oh shit, like, did I give them the wrong time? And I was like, no, we started an hour early. And then to top it all off, they're in different time zones. Kenny's in New York and Johnny's in Central Time. Yeah. So that confused me because Johnny came back and was like, oh, I have 3 p.m. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, wait, he's in Texas. Never mind. We're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
So who is Raquel, what PR firm is she with?
Raquel is solo. She's her own thing.
Okay.
She's like a solo. So it's crazy too. I mean, I don't want to get too into the weeds on this, but I met her because I reached out about I Am to Corpse Paint, the record, and the dude, like both Kenny actually said this. The dude who runs Corpse Paint is the one who put I Am together.
Oh, okay. So what is Josh doing these days?
They said he's an EMT.
Really? So he's not music anymore?
No, but we should ask him. Yeah. Because he was he's obviously a huge part of the band.
Right.
I rearranged my setup here too. Like before I had my stuff facing the wall this way. So I think now you can see my guitars and my Bill Hicks portrait. Makes my background a little more interesting. You guys both have interesting backgrounds. Like Joey's got the bookshelf. You got
my Elvis poster, my Rock and Roll Over puzzle that I put together. Then I used some type of glue adhesive to put it, to keep it together. But these lights are really easy to install.
Oh, fancy.
And so,
nice.
And so since it's Type O, I was like, man, I need to have the green up there.
That's awesome.
So all you do, so they're little bitty strips. And so you unroll it and these strips have an adhesive on it. So you just kind of like little by little do the adhesive, paste the light. And then it's got on one end, that's where you can plug in. It's got like a cord, on off button. Cord's about that long. And so I just got it plugged in and it works great. And I think the lights weren't all that expensive, but I don't know why the red's not coming up. Oh, there's red. and then my blue. So
that's awesome. That's
Green's my favorite.
That's baller, as the kids would say.
When I was teaching, because I always had like, you know, on Fridays we could wear jeans, and I would always wear unique looking shoes. And these fourth graders would call me King Drippy.
Drip is
man, you got your drip.
You know, you're in Houston, right? Or are you in Dallas? You're in Dallas.
I'm in Dallas.
No,
Houston's about 3 hours south.
Oh yeah, the Houston rap scene is like where all that stuff comes from, right? Like all that lingo.
Yeah, it's bigger than I thought, and I wonder if it's got a lot to do with like a lot of Katrina, you know, transplants and everything. Because when Katrina hit 15 years ago, those people just went everywhere.
Here's it looks like Kenny's logging on already.
Awesome. So I was looking at the slides, you know, because I found them. Dude, I'm just laughing. Just like they can't hear us right now.
I didn't warn him about this.
Okay, yeah. So he's gonna
warn either one of these guys.
I had to tell Kenny because I'm gonna ask us, hey, so you still play chess? Because I played chess with him, and I want to tell him, hey, I saw the interview. Oh, dude, come on, man. And I saw the interview. You know, obviously, but to me, the basement is the back half of the story.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to bring him in because it looks like he's logging in. So,
all right, come here, over here, Elvis.
Let me add.
Over here. Look how big he is. Lay down, dude. Lay down. Don't. No biting.
Hey.
There he is.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay. So you guys can hear me?
I can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Kenny, I was there that night. It was on Monday night in Dallas at a place called The Basement, and it was sponsored by a radio station called KEGL 97.1. And if memory serves me correct, it was a Lodo show. So maybe tickets were $4.71 or $9.71. I can't remember. But I remember seeing you guys being introduced. It was like in the office, which is like a little room towards the front. And I remember that. And do you want a wow moment, Kenny? We played chess together on the bus.
Did we really?
Yes, sir.
Did I lose?
No, I lost.
I used to kick everybody's ass in chess. I used to love to play chess a lot.
Yeah, and I always wondered that. But the crazy thing is your story. I considered that the first half. I'm sorry. I considered that the second half. I was there in Tyler, Texas, at the Oil Palace the last night of Motley Crue tour, and they have like an acoustic set
with the fish, with the tuna, with the
tuna and the stink bait going into the fans and all that. And wow, I've got pictures.
Wow, you got pictures? Show them. You got them on you right now?
Well, kind of. I mean, they're like slides.
Oh, all right, just slides. Okay,
I took a band. I have several of the band pictures. So, you were wearing black and had a big long flesh colored floppy thing that you'd be helicoptering around on the stage when you guys were. Okay, so you guys are on tour with Motley Crue, and it was the last night of the tour with Crue. And instead of them sabotaging you guys went out and punked them, and everybody decked out in women's lingerie. And I remember I was up on the bus when someone went to the back with Neg, and you guys brought out who was going to be wearing what. And there was like bras and panties and negligees and all sorts of stuff. Is this starting to sound familiar?
No, I remember that. You know, yeah, of course. I remember going to shop for this stuff in like Kmart or some shit.
Yeah,
wherever we were shopping in the women's section. I just remember how horrifying Peter was dressed like that.
Yeah, Peter had pigtails, and he was
terrible. He made the most ugly woman on earth, man.
He had a bra and panties, and so you guys came out on stage during the acoustic set. But Peter had written on the back of his back in big lipstick said "F me, Vince," but it was spelled out. And one of the funny things I remember, Peter had like fruit in the back of his panties, and he was throwing it out into the audience.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, he's always pulling something out of there.
Yeah. And so then, you know, it must have been before or after. I can't remember. I actually have a group photo of all you guys together wearing that stuff. And Peter was on your right, Josh was on your left, and then Johnny was on your far left. And Peter said to me in his deep baritone voice, "Nobody sees these pictures." And so I kept my word, you know.
Those pictures have gotten around. Yeah, I mean, other pictures of that night have gotten around. They've been around. Yeah. I've seen them.
Just once I saw one picture at one time. I'm like, wow, I don't remember anybody else having a camera. But, you know, it's like they're just sitting in slide format. It was just kind of funny, you know, how all that happened. And then, you know, then 2 nights later, you guys are playing the show in Dallas. And I recall that Rita being out at the show in Tyler.
Yes. Yep. Was there.
And then 2 nights later, you guys are playing
I think
Dallas.
Kirk Weinstein was there, and I think Dimebag was there with Rita.
Yeah. So,
and that's the first time I met Dime. And I guess I was right all these years. You know, I got a horrible memory with shit like that. But yeah, it was the basement.
Yeah,
and
it was a Monday night.
I did not remember it was a Monday night and $4 a head, but that's makes it even.
Yeah, it was a Monday night because the show in Tyler was on 8/20, and so 2 nights later, it was 8/22, 1994 at the basement in Dallas.
It was the best time of my life, man.
Yeah,
really was. We had nothing to lose. All we had to do was rock out, drink, have fun with our friends, laugh. It was great.
And everybody was very cordial to me. And how I got set up was I sent Sophie a Dallas Stars jersey, and it had Sophie stitched on the back and a number 1. And when I found out you guys were coming through town in Tyler, I asked her if, hey, can I go to the show? She goes, yeah. And then she goes, when you get out there, ask for a guy named Neg. And then as soon as I asked for him, I found him. Boom, I was up on the bus hanging out.
Let's look for the guy with the missing tooth.
So so everybody was so cordial, so hospitable. It was really nice. It's like one of those crazy memories that I have.
Yeah, it was a time and a place, man. That's like summer camp, rock and roll summer camp. And to think we didn't want to do that tour, because it was like Motley Crue, we can't play with Motley Crue, it's crazy in the daytime.
I considered that weekend or that night my last music hurrah because I was making the transition into sports public relations at that time.
Oh, that's what you went into. Okay.
Yeah. So I was leaving, the photography point, and I was jumping on over into the sports public relations. I did that for a couple of years, and they all came crashing down. So I said, I need to find something stable. And that's what I did.
Remember the crickets that Johnny had that he threw on Tommy Lee's snare drum?
I remember goldfish, stink bait. I totally forgot about the crickets.
Yeah, it was cat food. I think cat food and crickets.
There was cat food, and I remember catfish, stink bait, and cat food, and it was being dumped into those big old fans on the side of the stage. And it was just And
I had this big rubber dildo.
Yeah, and you were having fun.
Hitting the guys in the back with it while they were playing, and when I went over to Mick Mars, he just looked at me with this death stare, like, "Don't you dare!" Because like with Mick, he didn't have a sense of humor, but if you distracted him even the littlest bit, he'd fuck up. So he was like, "Don't come near me."
Yeah.
Like, okay, and I turned around and went the other way with the penis.
Yeah, it was like 12, 14. I mean, that thing was long.
I know, it was stupid. But we had fun.
Yeah. And so in one of the photos of all 4 of you guys together, Peter has got he's grabbing it, and he's just got this look on his face, just like standing next to you.
Oh God. Now it's cool to do stuff like that. Now it's normal to do stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Well, there's slides. I can get prints made, but I just, Peter said, nobody sees those photos. And so I mean,
I don't think he cared now.
So
but I don't think anybody would care. I mean, Typo was always, had a tongue-in-cheek sense of humor about it.
So maybe next year on the 30th anniversary of that show, I can put them out there, or email them to you guys or something.
Oh, he's backing out. Hey, I'm not going to be able to make the interview. I have to take one of the dogs to the emergency. Wait a minute. This is just now? To the emergency vet. He's suffering from heat stroke. Sorry. Dog got heat stroke. Yeah, whatever you got on your mind. Yeah, let's go with it. Oh, right. I think it's Josh's ex-girlfriend, and I forget her name. But yeah, that I believe is Josh's ex-girlfriend. Then at the time, like, well, with the inception of the band, even with Slow Deep and Hard, and this is back in the day where you couldn't just go on the internet and find a bank of sounds, you know what I mean? That are downloadable and, you know, that are public domain. So Josh did a lot, and Peter both. We all did a lot of going out and buying sound effect CDs and stuff. Find or like the grinder sounds and the machine screw sound and all that stuff. So there was always a lot of that going on in Josh's studio, trying to find all these sounds and stuff. So the concept was, what was it connected to when you think about it on the record? Oh, it's right before Christian Woman. Yeah, all right. So that makes sense. The orgasm thing makes sense because it's right before Christian Woman. Josh is a City of New York paramedic. He works for the city. Josh picks up decapitated heads for a living now. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even joking, dude. I don't know how he does what he does, but you know, the hats off to him. You know, it takes a very strong, resilient person to be able to deal with daily trauma in East New York. You know, Brooklyn. That's what he does. He loves it. Loves it. He's proud of it. There's something to be proud of, and he loves it.
How long has he been doing this?
Well, he started going for the classes and tests while we were developing Dead Again. So there you go, that long. So, you know, shortly, and then he was already working on ambulances here and there. So then by the time Peter passed, he was full in. So what, 15 years? What is that, 2009? Wow. Something like that? Something like that. Yeah, well, you know, Typo was getting canceled in 91, so. Yeah, I mean, we were canceled right out of the gate. I don't know how we would fare today. Yeah, you know, it's making fun of both extremes. You know, good song. It was a good answer to a lot of the bullshit that we dealt with from So Deep and Hard, because, you know, obviously there was a lot of, I guess they called it misogynistic language on it, but it was really just, you know, trying reality based. And, you know, when you're angry at someone or your girlfriend for, you know, cheating on you, you know, ruining your life, you might say things that, you know, you don't want to say, but they just come out. And just, you know, that's how it was. And it was like a real depiction of the ups and downs and the roller coaster of emotions that you go through during infidelity, you know? So, but they didn't take it like that. They took it as, you know, talking about all woman and not one women. But, you know, so that's what was that. That was an answer to that politically. What I remember about the song is we played that song a lot too live. I loved it. It sounded great live, the song.
It's a great song.
It was really difficult to play because it was this suspension that was based on a ninth chord. And if you don't know, a ninth chord is it's spread like this over 6 frets. And then it even went down, like the index finger went down. It was so painful for me to play. I would around like, oh, but you know, Peter wrote it. So if his hands were gigantic, and then we showed it was like nothing for him. It goes like this, like that. It was a nightmare to play though live. But it sounded good, but I couldn't. I had to like just sit there like Mick Morrison. Oh my God, this part's coming.
Well, I'm curious. I've always been curious what kind of tunings you use, because I know, like, obviously your stuff is very low, but and there 7-string guitars weren't really a thing back then either.
Well, they existed, but yeah, they weren't a thing in rock, and you know, it was more of like a jazz thing. 7-string guitars, yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because jazz players use a lot of notes. But we never did the 7-string thing. All we did was just tune down the entire guitar a fourth into B. So it's really low. Yeah. So we had to, like, you know, use heavier gauge strings to deal with it, the tension problems, you know, the looseness of the strings that come with it, going out of tune. And it was a nightmare at first, you know. And then I guess a lot of bands started tuning down then in the beginning of the 90s, right? Running into the same problems, and hence the 7-string thing became popular because obviously it was more stable with the tuning and easier to keep it harmonically nice if there was 7 strings instead of just drop tuning a guitar.
Yeah. There definitely wasn't anyone playing as low as you guys back then.
No one.
What kind of guitar do you use? Do you play like a specific brand, or back then what did you use?
Back then I was using Gibson, you know. I used I started the band with Flying V that Peter just destroyed. I had this Gibson Flying V that I loved, and he was like, "Oh, can I have a guitar? And I want to, doll it up a little bit, and I'll bring it back to you tomorrow." I said, "Oh, okay." It was like my baby, you know. I came back to rehearsal the next day. He handed me my guitar. He goes, "Here, hope you like it." And he had taken the V, and he had taken a 1-inch hole saw and drilled holes straight through the V, like all over the place, and then painted the insides of the holes green. You know, a V is thin enough as it is. It has very little resonant wood on it as it is because it's a V. And now he just like took out another third of the wood.
So it's a really light guitar.
Yeah, but also sonically, I never worked again the right way. He destroyed it. You know, Peter often made things that looked cool, but never worked again after he modified them. I have the guitar still. I wish I had it right next to me. I'd show it to you.
Oh, but, yeah.
Yeah, I still have the guitar, but that's it. It had to be retired after that. And then I started playing SGs, you know, because Tony Iommi used them. I mean, he tuned down, but he only tuned down to C sharp, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or C. I think it was C sharp. This is down to a fourth, another, whatever, step and a half. So the SGs didn't handle it that well usually. I had to up the gauge of the string, you know. Yeah. It was very floppy. You had to play very light, or else it was like blah, 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 something out of tune, you know.
Yeah, like that guy from.
Got through it. I did that Motley tour, that Motley Crue tour, and that's the one you saw me on. And I was using SGs for that. But that was the beginning, you know. I used Gibson, and then I went over to Fernandez. During October Rush, before October Rush, we got a bunch of Fernandez guitars, and they introduced us to the Sustainer pickup, the Sustainiac pickup that introduced this endless sustain to your guitar in 3 different octaves, 3 different tones, like the unison or a fifth up and then an octave up or something like that. So it was really cool, and that ended up being incorporated into the Typo sound. It became part of it, you know. Now I use Schecter. So we went over to Schecter after that. I only used Fernandez for a short stint, and then all the other stuff Typo has been doing with Schecter from henceforward. That's my signature model is a Schecter Solo 6 now.
I'm curious, how did you meet Pete Steele? Like, how did Typo Negative form? Like, what's the Typo Negative origin story?
Well, I met Pete years before Typo, and I think I was like maybe 17, 16, something like that. My brother's 5 years older than me, and my brother went to school with Louis Beadle, Carnivore's drummer. So I knew Louis Beadle from when I was a little kid. First time I ever met Louis Beadle was on a Halloween night. I must have been like 6 years old in Brooklyn, and it was me, my brother, and Louis Beadle, all misfits, walking home. And then you hear like 18 guys with shaving cream. Hey, that's Hickey. Get him. And all I'm running down the street. I ran. like for our lives. You know, these guys were gonna beat our asses. I remember running into Louis Beato's alleyway of his house to get away from them all. That's how I met Louis, the drummer from Carnival. And he was up at my house all the time. So that's how I knew those guys, you know, and I knew of Fallout when it first formed, the first band with Josh and Peter and Louis, and I had their single when it first came out. And at the time I was playing guitar already. So these were like the 5-year older generation guys that were already doing what we were dreaming about doing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, fast forward some years, probably about 88, something like that. I was friends with Sal Abroscato. We jammed in the same studio. Everybody jammed in the same studio. It was called Sink the Pink. You know, it was on Flatbush Avenue. It was there for years. Brooklyn's kind of a small place. If you're playing rock music, there's only a few different studios and places to play. And I met Sal. He lived 2 blocks away from me too. Grew up.
And he's the original drummer, right?
No, Sal. Yeah, Sal's the Abroscato drummer for Type O. Yes. Now Sal took lessons for drumming from Louis Beato, Carnival's original drummer. So this is the whole connection. He learned from Louis. And I met Sal through the studios and hanging out and stuff like that. And we became fast friends. And then when Carnival broke up, I think it was around 88, right? I think Peter was trying to give up music. He was taking some tests to be a cop or something like that, you know, and cut his hair off. He had no hair. And Sal was like, oh, you know what? He's not doing anything. Carnival's broken up. Let's see what that motherfucker's doing, you know? And he went over to Pete's house, knocked on the door, see if he wanted to form a band. That's how it started. You know, Sal brought me in. And Peter was like, well, I got all these ideas. And he already had like the majority of So Deep and Hard written. Because this girl had already left him and already destroyed his world, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So he's sitting in his basement. He wrote most of the stuff already. And some of it, I think, was carryover. Some of the songs were carryover from Carnival, but not too much of it. And he was like, well, I got all these ideas where I want to do this dirge, thrash, metal, noise, core thing, you know, which nobody was doing that. You know, who ever heard of anything like that then, you know? Industrial thing. So I'm going to need a keyboard player. So that's why he brought Josh in from down the block. He hadn't played with Josh for years at that point. Josh was running a studio called Sty in the Sky, which everyone recorded at, you know, for years. That's what he was doing in his house. He turned his house into a studio and brought Josh aboard. And, you know, that's how it began. From the ashes of Carnival, really.
Okay. So the first album you guys put out was Slow, Deep, and Hard.
Yes.
It's funny because we were talking about under the name Repulsion. Okay.
We weren't even Type O. You know, at first New Minority was called, and then it turned to Repulsion, and we made the demo ourselves, put it out, threw it out at shows, and then we found out there was another band 2 neighborhoods down named Repulsion. They were like, we're gonna sue you. So we already got like, oh wait, no, it wasn't Repulsion. Sub-Zero it turned to. It went from Repulsion to Sub-Zero. And we got the tattoos. Sub-Zero. And then we found out there was another Sub-Zero. And they were like, we're gonna sue you. And I'm like, oh, we already got the tattoos. So really, Peter matched the name to the tattoos.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, oh, it's a blood drive. And maybe there was, but the name went with the tattoo because we were already fucked. We had the tattoo for Sub-Zero, right?
That's cool.
So that's
Sub-Zero is a fitting name too. It sounds like
it was a series of errors. Yeah, it was a fitting name. So was Repulsion for that. I mean, that's where the green color came in because, you know, it was a repulsive green. That's what we look like, a vomit green for, you know.
I saw you tell a story about Peter like painting some jam room you guys had with some kind of green oil-based paint that you would like lean against the walls and it'd get all over your clothes. It never dried.
We're down there 2 years, it never dried. He grabbed the paint because he's a parks department worker from the cheapest shit that the city of New York has. Yeah, and we painted the walls inside that repulsion green, that typo green. Yeah, and they never dried. And he did that again to me, like he would do that on the road, like for that Motley Crue tour, which was like obviously it was in the middle of August, right? It was 100 degrees out in the South.
Yeah.
And he had this thing where he wanted, let's do again with the guitars, paint the guitars flat black, and the knobs green, and then do some acrylic paint and paint the frets green. Like, okay, so I would do it carefully, you know what I mean, and prepare it, and then it would wear out. You'd sweat on it and it'd wear out, and he'd be like, oh, you got to repaint your guitar. I'm like, all right, I'm not really worried about that right now. It's 100% humidity and 100 degrees out, And then like he'd have a bad phone call at home, get all stressed out. Give me a guitar. And one day, because we went on like 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon in the heat, he was like, give me a guitar, because he was stressed out. And he spray painted my guitar flat black, took the strings off like 20 minutes before we went on stage.
Oh no.
Yeah. And it was like, I go back and my tech's like, I don't get the strings on the guitar. What are you talking about? What's going on now? Put the fucking strings on the guitar. He's putting the strings on the guitar. The paint's still wet. Fucking going on and hitting the first chord. It was like so out of tune, like, bleh.
Yeah.
And we just stopped and couldn't play. And Peter just stands there and goes, we're having some technical difficulties. And until they're rectified, I'm going to stand here and do absolutely nothing. And he stood there like he was waiting for a bus in front of 5,000 people. Well, my tech was trying to tune my guitar. And then, he finally got it in tune. But like I turned around, I looked down and my forearms were black with black spray paint. And my arms and my elbows and my shirt. It's always sticking to the old show.
He had a very specific brand image that he was going with.
It was just because he was freaking out, and he was, he's a control freak, so he needed to control something. Control the guitar color.
I got you.
Sound man, wake up, stupid.
When you guys, I didn't even realize until recently that Origin of Feces, which is the first typo stuff I heard, I thought it was a live album because of that intro.
You were supposed to be fooled, yeah. That's not so live from Coney Island. That was a brilliant idea because you know what? It was never done. It was another new ground, and Peter came up with it 100%. He was like, I got this idea. Because he always heard like the famous live albums from the 70s, like Peter Frampton Live and Kiss Alive, right? That they did a lot of overdubs to make them. Well, I don't know about Peter Frampton. I know Kiss did. So you just take it one further, do a completely canned, phony live album and fool everybody it's live. And really? Have us fucking up and sucking on it too.
Yeah.
And kind of like reenacting all the horrible shit we went through during the 91 European tour. They were freaking out because of some of the comments that Peter made in the press. And obviously because of the sort of misogynistic language that was in it.
Yeah.
He did some German press, and he was doing like, a spin-off of, John Lennon when he got in trouble saying the Beatles were even bigger than Christ. He said, whoa, the typo negative is even bigger than Hitler.
Oh, no.
Right. Which was really hilarious when you think about it.
Yeah.
They didn't think it was so funny. Man, did we find that out when we got over there. So, whatever. He always put his foot in his mouth. It was part of his shtick and his nature. He had to stir the pot.
Yeah.
He stirred the pot.
The band's sense of humor is part of the appeal, a big part of the appeal.
Yeah. Well, Devo was one of his favorite bands. So, the whole Dio evolution thing, he very much adhered to that. He loved Devo. He loved the whole concept of Devo and the whole social satire of it.
So let's talk about Bloody Kisses, because you're talking about him being a control freak, and your voice is a big part of Bloody Kisses, and like a lot of my favorite parts, like kind of the end, the trail off part at the end of Summer Breeze, for example, that Sets Me on Fire piece or stuff like that. When you guys sat down to write this album, did you did you intend it to be this epic, or did it just kind of happen that way? Like with all the
happen, you know, one part led into another, into another, into another, you know what I mean? And like, as far as the singing and stuff, like I would just join in, you know, in the studio while he was singing or coming up with melodies and stuff. And if it sounded good, we used it, you know. And we complimented each other, because I had a higher register, he had the low register, you know.
Yeah.
To go over where it was too hard for him.
I was trying to kind of like go systematically through the album, like in consequential order, you know, sequential order,
right,
with the questions I had, right? So
okay.
I asked you about Machine Screw, but so for Christian Woman, I've always been curious about that interlude with the birds chirping and stuff like that. Like, what kind of guitar did you use? Was that just like a canned sample of like?
No, that was a 12-string. Oh, it was a 12-string guitar, and I remember we had to rent it, right? Because we didn't have a 12-string that was really operable. And this, I believe, I'd have to double check with Josh. Not that he would remember. I think it was Systems 1, the first studio that was near Marine Park, the first incarnation of Systems that we had it. And we rented one from Sam Ash, which wasn't far, but we couldn't fucking tune it. No, like I couldn't get it in tune to stay in tune, and then Josh tried, and then, you know,
a 12-string.
Yeah, it was like, fuck, man, this thing still sounds bad now too. We had to call out and down tune it. I paid them to tune it. Poor assholes. And then
but you apparently figured it out.
I just sitting down and playing it and doing an overdub of just mixing the notes around a little differently and stuff. Yeah, I remember that. That's what I remember about that interlude.
Was like the birds and the streams and stuff?
Very like,
there's just like
that's like right off of Rubber Soul. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You know.
I was like, I wonder if they were like went to some weird destination and recorded this personally, or if it's just like a
no, those are samples, dude.
Something from a sample library.
Yeah, those are all samples, yeah. And this is I can't say it's the beginning of sampling in rock, because it's not. That began really in the late 70s, but it just took it a little further, you know.
Yeah, it just creates a really cool mood in the song. I love that. It's got that Led Zeppelin dynamic to like a real extreme, you know, because it goes from that dark heavy into this like pretty streams.
Yeah, that's what I love about Zeppelin, man, you know.
The light and shade.
Yeah, that up and down, that dark and light. And yeah, that's, to me, that is probably the best written typo song, I think. Because when you think about Christian Woman, it's like 4 great songs in one. I mean,
yeah,
the Jesus Christ Looks Like Me is like the best part. And it happened fucking 15 minutes later, you know. And the first part was the radio signal that broke the band. And, you know, Peter thought that I know he agreed with me, because I remember him saying, you know, you never really know what you got until you listen back to it the next day. And I remember when he did the first demo at Josh's and he went back home, he said he knew it there, that this was the one. This is the best song he wrote. Yeah, fantastic song. Great piece of work.
That's a great opener. So then Black Number One, you guys, I mean, you've talked a lot about that. It's like, but one of the things I wanted to ask you about is
song. Yeah, it's such a fun song, you know what I mean? I was listening to a lot of Misfits and old punk then.
There sounds like there's some Easter eggs in there too. Like there's a point where it sounds like you guys are doing like the Addams Family, like the little between the
snaps.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, in Addams Family, she snaps.
Totally. Yeah. So I love that, those little kind of like, again, it's like the sense of humor of the band. You guys are kind of like throwing in the little horror movie or horror, like almost like the late. I noticed that a lot too. The reference to like classic horror too, like, or like the late
camp.
Yeah. Even the Fay Ray thing, you know, from the Scream Queens, like the Fay Ray Come Out and Play song. Was that the same woman that did the intro, the Machine Screw intro?
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't know. I don't remember. Was she just screaming? I don't remember.
It's like got so that's the one with that has like the tribal drumming, like you guys like sound like islanders and stuff.
Yeah.
And then
From King Kong, it's like the scene in King Kong.
Totally King Kong, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a real woman or a sample. I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay.
I doubt Josh would remember either. I call Josh sometimes because he won't do interviews anymore. I'm like, I don't remember. I don't remember either. You know, it's a long time ago, 30 years ago. I remember.
I also don't want to. I don't want to be that nerdy guy either that like annoys the shit out of you. Like I'm interested to hear.
Well, no, you're not. You're not. You're not. I just wish I had. Like I hear some guys they come back and it's 30 years later. You know, some of these dudes like even like Jimmy Page and he like knows every fucking detail of what they did. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
it's not me.
No, I mean, honestly, what's cool is the stuff that sticks out to you too. The stuff that you do remember clearly that you can, talk about is what's the coolest, you know? So like when you guys finished that record, did you know, like when it was done, you were like, this might be like the next level for us, or
no. I knew, but when we were done, we were having fun. It was very inventive. You know, we went from being this really brash, harsh, industrial, hardcore metal thing from Slow, Deep, and Hard to really something like Christian Woman, which is like, you know, very inventive and very eclectic and drawn from a lot of different genres. And, you know, it was a very inventive time. You know, and fun. You know, we're just having fun with it. So just going with it. So when we got out, we all collectively thought it was really great and cool, but probably so weird. It would never be anything but, something maybe underground because the band already had sort of a cult following locally, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started realizing pretty early on that, you know, the people who... Paris, who did the video, and just the people who were surrounding us were really falling in love with these songs. Really obsessed with them, like Black Number One and all this. And so maybe there's something a little more in this, you know. Maybe we should just go for it. You know, take it out on the road and go for it. Which was always the intention. Getting to Brooklyn is the problem.
It's such a cool like, because that era was like the grunge era kind of when it blew up.
It was.
So it was kind of an out of place record. It wasn't really part of the grunge wave. It wasn't, but I have such clear memories of showing it to like kids that were like into like rap or like techno or like music that was not rock and metal, and them going like, this shit is fucking great, you know?
Yeah.
So it had that broad appeal.
What's funny about it all is I am grunge generation. I'm not age group, right? So, and my career came to fruition in the grunge era, but we were outside of it, even though we were trying to attempt to do the same things, fuse Black Sabbath and Beatles, you know, which is basically what grunge is doing, right?
Totally.
Yeah, you know, and we were kids that grew up in the 70s, and we grew up listening to, you know, Black Sabbath, Zeppelin, you know, all the greats, the Beatles. So my generation of musicians, that's what we were doing. We were fusing it. Typo was doing the same thing. We just did it differently. You know, we went darker, I guess, or more campy with it, you know, and in a different, we went the whole keyboard way. I mean, we were more probably in tune to like what Smashing Pumpkins were trying to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm a huge Smashing Pumpkins fan. I love the Pumpkins. And they're considered super grunge, you know. But they were doing the same shit. They were attempting to do the same stuff, fuse the same stuff. Well, what's funny is that the grunge people did take us under their belt. We did do well. You know, Christian Woman was put on regular rotation in the Seattle radio station, which kind of dictated everybody's radio stations at the time, everybody's format at the time. Mm-hmm. So it broke the band. You know, the grunge, Seattle broke the band. But what happened is the metal kids who rejected grunge, because they're like, I want my metal, you know, they adopted us too. So that's how we were able to tour with, you know, Pantera and Queensryche and all the metal bands. as well.
I'm pretty sure I saw you say in another interview that it was Motley Crue, like we were talking about earlier, that actually like really took you guys to the next level too. And you guys were skeptical about doing that tour.
Yeah, no, they broke the band. Motley Crue broke, typo. You know, they were listening to the record, I guess, when they were recording in the studio with Karabi for the Karabi record. That's what
I love that album.
Vince Neil had just left the band. Yeah, Karabi's got a great voice, man. You know, great guy, nice guy.
There's some great shit on that record.
Guitar player. But they were listening to the record. They discovered it apparently while they were recording that record, and they were like, "Oh, these guys are cool. Let's take them out." That's how. And they asked us, and Ken Creedy, our manager at the time, who was a great manager, he had a lot of vision. He was like, "Motley Crue wants to take you out." At the time, we were already touring, but we were touring in a bus. And we were playing to 50 people a night. We were playing like, pizzerias, the back of pizzerias and like shitholes. And for $4 tickets, like we were talking about at the basement. That's how we were playing. And he was like, "You got to do this tour. Motley Crue wants you to tour with them." And we were like, "What? Motley Crue? Get the fuck out of here. Their fans don't hate us, And he talked us into it. He said, "Listen, you're going to be playing an open shed tour. Arena tour all across the States and playing to thousands of people who would never think about listening to you or even be exposed to you anyway. So this is how you break the band." And he was right. We went out and did it. And right away, within the first week, our record sales started going up and up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they discovered the band. They broke the band.
Do you think it was Tommy?
What, that liked the band?
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one of them made the call. I think Nicky was the one who liked the band.
Okay, Nicky Six too. He seems like that.
I think he was also attracted to some of the controversy that was attached to the band earlier, but I can't verify.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm.
Well, so I was gonna say I was thinking about it, and I didn't even realize I'm such a dumbass. I didn't realize that Johnny didn't play on Bloody Kisses.
He wasn't in the band yet. He wasn't in the band yet.
So it was Sal on that record. So
Sal,
you know what we should do?
Played on the record, never toured for it.
We should do a 30th anniversary for October Rust with you guys.
Yeah.
When that comes around, and have Johnny come in on that, because I
should be what? I'll be 60 years old by then.
Or maybe 25th. Who knows? Like whatever's better. But that's I don't blame him really, because I wasn't even aware that he didn't play on that record. Because he's on isn't he in the
wasn't in the band yet. Huh?
Isn't he in the promo photos for the album?
What do you mean? The promo? You mean the album itself and the artwork inside? No, it's Sal.
No, he's not.
No. Sal's in the video in block number 1 too, but Johnny's in Christian Women.
Okay. See, wow.
Well, yeah,
I'm not. I thought I was a bit better fan than that. I'm glad that I know that now.
No, the transfer happened before the band ever left Brooklyn and went on tour for Bloody Kisses, and Sal joined Life Agony.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was talking about Life in Agony the other day because, their singer transitioned, and we had a big conversation about how the metal community has always been such a open-minded, like accepting world. That happened way before any of the trans thing became like a hot button issue. The Mina Caputo.
Well, we're used to it. We have Rob Halford. Everybody's Rob. I mean, I grew up listening to Rob Halford. I love Judas Priest.
Yeah,
you don't love Rob Halford any less. Who cares?
Of course.
Who the hell cares?
Totally.
What you do? I don't give a shit.
It's funny. I saw you on another interview. I can't remember what show you were on, but I actually listened to a bunch of old Priest because of that interview. Because I'd never.
Really?
Yeah, because I grew up listening to like Metallica, early Metallica and Megadeth and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't get into like Priest and Maiden till later on. So I heard you talking about, I think it was you and Johnny, maybe the stuff you guys did for Revolver a couple years ago with the Code Orange guys or something. But you were talking about Priest, and I was like, wow, I got to go listen to some old Priest now because I hadn't really.
Well, they gave birth. Priest and Maiden gave birth to Metallica and Anthrax.
Totally.
I mean,
Totally.
so yeah. It's the natural evolution. You know, you go backwards.
Right.
Discover something and you follow it back. And that's what's great about the one thing that's great about streaming, even though it destroyed an artist's way of making money, is just having all that music at your fingertips, man. I mean, when I was growing up, you had to spend thousands of dollars in years making a record collection, you know. And then you're only limited to what you thought of buying. Now you could just any genre, any time frame, and it's great.
It is beautiful.
Junkie, so I'm constant, you know what I mean? I'm always going back. I'll listen to old jazz. I'll listen to Etta James. And,
hell yeah.
It's great.
I've been spinning a lot of that stuff lately, like Sly Stone and like Mandrill and all those old funk bands from the 70s. There's so much good music from that era.
Oh, the 70s is the greatest music. Everything culminated in the 70s, man. And then it was simplified and answered back by punk rock. I mean, the 70s is the era.
Yeah, like every record's a gold record. Even the 80s, though. I was listening to 80s shit. And stuff that
80s, like, I love, and then like most of it was wasteland. Once they brought in those stupid keyboard sounds and
right,
the gated snare sound, and oh god, it's terrible. Even the artists today that did it, that made millions, know it's terrible.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that I thought was corny back then has like nostalgia value now too. So it's like I can hear all these cruddy like old R&B songs that I hated in the 80s. I'm like, oh, I love Paula Abdul now.
Oh no. I love Pat Benatar.
Yeah.
You know, I love Blondie. I loved the Cars. I was a Cars freak. I loved the Cars when they came out with their first record, even their first three records. U2,
yeah,
massive. I mean, a massive impact on me and Type O. Obviously, you can listen to the guitar work.
Yeah, the Edge.
You know, there are some greats, and that's it. Guns N' Roses towards the end, you know, they came in. I mean, there are some great, amazing Talking Heads.
Yeah.
You know,
Devo,
but a lot of shit too. A lot of crap. I mean, you know, I love
even
Cindy
some like. I was like, to give you an example, like that song Easy Lover by Phil Collins. I heard that. I was like, I hated this song in the 80s, but it's kind of cool. It's like, it's got some nostalgia, like stuff like that. I'm going like, it's not like I'm out here.
Phil is a great epic songwriter, you know, and he did some great epic stuff with Genesis. But then he did all that shit in the fucking 80s. You know? Oh my god. But then he came back, he did that really great stuff for Disney, for Tarzan.
Oh yeah,
amazing. I was like, what the hell, why wasn't he doing that in the 80s? I guess it was
the whole time. South Park totally went at him. It was funny as hell too.
You had to have some kind of dance element, you know, those stupid pop hits in the 80s, and that's kind of like, I guess, sent him askew.
I was laughing because there's the Paula Abdul song. I was laughing because one of my friends I was listening to it with her, and it's this song, and she's like, it's like The Way That You Love Me, but the whole song is about like, she's like, it's not the way that you have a yacht, and it's like describing this really rich dude, and I'm like, this song is so terrible because it's not like she's like, it's the way that you love me, like the way that you work at the bank or the way that you, or you know, mop the floors at your job. It's like this rich ass dude. It's like such a pretentious ass song.
That was the age of the material girl. Come on, man.
And it's only gotten worse, I think, since then. Like, but there still is a lot of great stuff. There's still a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, there always is. There's always some. But I think, you know, if you're going to take 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, the 80s is by far the poorest decade.
The worst.
The worst.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
90s re-exploded. 90s was great music. Think about the records that came out in 91.
Yeah.
You had Nevermind, Bad Motorfinger,
Black
10
Metallica.
from Pearl Jam. You had Blood
Black
Sugar
Album.
Sex Magic.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
ridiculous. It was like, what the fuck?
Are you into
Temple
Faith
of
No
Dog came out
More at
same
all?
year. Huh?
Faith No More, like some of those Faith No More
Yeah,
records.
yeah.
The Black Album, the Metallica record, the Guns
Yeah,
N'
Black
Roses.
Album came out in 91. I mean, it's an
Guns N' Roses.
explosion
That's
of
true.
not only musical ideas, but also in film, in the movies, you know? All
The
the
90s,
great movies coming out, man.
the 90s were like the
Fellas.
70s redux, kind of.
Yeah,
It's almost
yeah,
like
yeah. Well, yeah,
'Cause
that's
even-
true. You go back a decade. It was sort of reinventing the 70s and bringing
Right.
in a new era.
Because even the grunge stuff is like a lot of it's throwback. Like you were saying,
Yeah.
Beatles and Sabbath.
You know, I talk to like some of these metal fans and stuff. You know, I love metal too, and they're like these like anti-grunge. Oh, the grunge, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, that was the last era that rock was mainstream radio and getting Grammys. You know,
That's
and
true.
getting best video of the year. You know, that's gone now. It's all hip hop. You know, it was the last
True.
great era for rock, and it was because of those fucking bands. So.
I don't want to like hog the conversation because I want to like let you guys ask some questions here, Joey and Brian. But I want to ask you about this since we're on this subject, because someone in the comments on our YouTube actually brought this up, because we were talking about how great there's all these great albums, and then it kind of cuts off in the 2000s. Like there's not that there isn't great stuff that's released after 2000, but this guy goes, it's because of digital recording, because as soon as the 2000s hit, everyone was on the grid with Pro Tools, whereas before that, everything was analog and it wasn't all to a click. It was more natural. And I was like, what do you think about that? Do you think there's any validity
I
to
don't
that?
think it's no. I mean, there is an element of depersonalizing the way a song maybe comes off when it's too perfect, you know. But most good musicians know that. They'll leave mistakes and they don't over edit stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think that's why. I think what happened more is it became so corporatized. You know, really, when you think about record companies and stuff like that and how everything conglomerated and came together and rock radio collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything kind of corporatized, and when that happens, everything gets formulated. So whoever's opening the gate to let the people through to break through is sticking to a particular formula. You know, back in the 90s or the 80s or the 70s, you could be rejected by whatever 10 record labels, get on a record label, release a single, and a DJ could like your song somewhere, start spinning it, and it would become, you know, like viral and spread across the country. There's no ways to make it that way anymore in the 2000s. Now there is from YouTube. YouTube has brought that element back in now.
Yeah, yeah.
You could bypass all these corporate music executives and who's opening the gates for Spotify and all this stuff, just by going viral on YouTube. You know,
no, that's true.
Like Jelly Roll. That happened to Jelly Roll and his wife. They're huge now, and he was just putting his own stuff on YouTube, and it went viral.
Yeah, no, I think we've talked about this before too. How it's I can't remember who said this. I think it was about Rick Rubin, but he's like, it's like the best time for music ever right now, because the technology's available for anyone to make a great record and put it out and distribute it, but by the same token, there's a fire hose, so it's like there's so much stuff.
Yeah, that it's really hard. I mean, it's always hard to stand out and get noticed. Now it's even harder, yes, because now it's so flooded, and catching anyone's, like I said before, when you think about Spotify and just the enormity of the catalog of music that is available to you, it's overwhelming. So you know, that's where algorithms come in. That's why people are being, you know, we're becoming this walking algorithm, you know, our whole lives are. But to catch 2 minutes, never mind 4 minutes that a song takes of someone's attention is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And then there's also the other negative part of it, where this younger generation. So when we were growing up, music was everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you got a record, you sat with that record for weeks, you know what I mean? It was everything.
Smell the cover.
Now it's video games. You know?
Yeah.
Kids are like this. They're walking or they're on the bus going to work, or they're walking to the bus, waiting on the bus stop. They're not listening to a song. They fucking play video games, dude. So you get that competitive part of it too happening.
I think there's a bit of a return to that. I see that with my son's generation. Like a lot of his friends, they're kind of like turning off their phones. Like he just deleted TikTok off his phone. Like he's kind of like, you know, they're more into like raw, like real music and stuff. There's a little bit of a backlash, I think, to the saturation of technology.
That's how my youngest is. My youngest is 21.
Oh, okay.
But she's kind of like more of an intellectual. She's always been kind of like outside of the box, but she doesn't have a TikTok or any of that stuff.
Smart girl. Yeah, my kids are 16 and 17, so they're not far behind that.
Yeah.
You guys, Joey and Brian, do you guys have anything to ask? I just had one question for you, Kenny. The song "Bloody Kisses." I've heard that song was actually written about Peter's cat. Is that true, or was that something he just made up for people?
Sounds like something we bullshitted and made up, but I don't remember.
Well, that's what I wondered, because
what it's about. I don't remember what it's about.
Well, it's about death of a loved one.
I got to do more research on this shit before I go in.
Well, apparently the story is, he thought someone as big and, menacing looking as him would be viewed a lot differently if people knew the truth, that it was actually written about his cat that died. So he wrote it in metaphor so that it sounded much different.
I believe that.
Really?
His world was his cats, man. He loved cats, dude. They were his babies. He donated to foundations for animals and cats and loved his cats. He always had 6 or 7 cats running around. And in front of his house, it was like 8 different bowls of cat food. All the cats, freeloading cats in the neighborhood hung out at Peter's house.
He's a cat lady. It's a big, tough guy, but a big heart for
yeah, he's a softie.
Yeah,
he wasn't a tough guy. He was just a big, creative, intellectual.
Well, listen to the song now and think it's about a cat, and maybe it'll hit different.
Yeah, that's a dark song.
Yeah, we're all interpreting, and anything we hear, right?
Yeah,
awesome.
That's what's beautiful about music, is everybody kind of associates it and kind of molds it to their own worldview.
The thing about music, especially what I've noticed over the years, is that, and I've heard somebody say this, I don't know who said it, but that people really get a deep appreciation and love for musicians, like beyond other kinds of artists, like visual artists or filmmakers, because they often attach a song to this very sweet or important part in their lives when they were growing up. You know what I mean? And that is sort of placed onto the artist, that importance and that love is thrown to the artist, and it's a wonderful thing. I'm not complaining about it, but it's the best thing about being a musician.
Do you have a song that hits you like that?
Oh, you mean out of any song?
Out of any song in the world, do you have a song that really hits you?
I have many songs that hit me like that. Many. Day in the Life. The Beatles. Golden Slumbers. A lot of it's Beatles stuff.
Day in the Life. That's the one that Lennon and McCartney wrote together, right?
Yeah,
the 2-part one.
Yeah,
that's a great song.
Golden Slumbers is another one.
I read the news today. Oh, that one, right?
Out a lucky man.
Yeah. And then when it changes, woke up, got out of bed, dragged a comb across my head. That's a fucking great song.
So, yeah, a lot of songs. I got a lot of songs, I guess, for every occasion.
Joey.
Yes, sir.
Is that it? You done?
That's all I had. Yeah.
Brian, you got anything else before we let Kenny get out of here? Stop.
Yeah, I guess it's just more like a personal curiosity. So obviously I've got the standard release, but then this was put out afterwards, and it was like a
I had both of those too.
It's like, I guess there was like an unreleased track or two on it. Like Machine Screw's not on this, and so what was I don't know, the thought process to put this out. It was just like just something else to put out a couple additional tracks or
yeah, it was to extend the life of the record.
That's what I was getting more mileage
at the time, really trying to break the band, and push it.
Yeah.
So that was the longest growth period of the band, and I think we toured for it for like 18 months or 19 months or something like that.
So the because I not only did I see the show in Tyler, but I saw you guys play the amphitheater in Dallas, and it was in the summer, but I don't remember if it was the summer of 93 or 94. I just don't remember.
In the 80s.
I don't want to hold you hostage too much longer, Kenny. I know that I Am just released a new single. Are you guys any closer to knowing when you might have a new album out or a full length?
We have we just wrote another 4 songs, and I'm in process right now of laying tracks in my studio, like vocals and guitars. So that's half an album. So you get that finished, and then we're going to meet up again in October in New Orleans and do another 5 songs to finish the second half of the record. So awesome. We do have another single being released too, coming up October, November. Second single.
It's
already completed. It's great. We love it. It's awesome, and very excited.
What's it called?
Cryptomnesia.
Cryptomnesia.
I know everybody's going to be like pronouncing it wrong and spelling it wrong. But, I anticipate.
That's why I asked you. It looked like a word you guys fused together. It was cool. Cryptomnesia.
No, it's a real word. It's a real word.
It's genre appropriate. Let's put it that way.
So very excited about that. And my other band, Silvertune, we're right now wrapping up the mixes for our record. We're going to be releasing that too. So I'm probably going to be releasing a lot of music 2024.
Awesome. Well, we won't hold you up anymore. Thanks for taking the time, man. Again, I really appreciate it. And maybe let's try and if maybe there's a 25th or 26th anniversary for let's do an October Rust episode where we can get Johnny in here where he actually played on the album, and it's not cool, like
I had a good time. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the memories, the Dallas memories, man. Clarifying them, man, because it's all a fog to me, man. And I've been saying in so many interviews, I think it was the basement. Well, you just verified it.
It was the basement. Monday night, Lodo show, KEGL, and the DJ Cindy Skull introduced you guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me of all that stuff.
You're welcome.
Brian texted me after I talked to you last time, Kenny, and he was like, I was there. I was at that show. I was like, whoa, next time.
And I saw the introduction. I actually saw you guys being introduced.
That's the introduction that actually led to us and ended up touring with Banter.
Right. And you guys played when that came through, you played the Fair Park Band Shell Thanksgiving weekend, or the week of Thanksgiving, if memory serves me correct. And I wasn't able to go. I can't remember why I didn't go. But the big story about that show is the Fair Park Band Shell. That's where a minor league hockey team would play. So they had plywood over the ice, and the fans tore up the plywood, and people were surfing on the crowd.
They had the plywood up, and then people was crowd surfing and diving off the plywood, and then they set the plywood on fire. And 4 by 8 sheets of plywood were flying on fire around the friggin'
nice.
And they were warned. You better get rid of the plywood. And they refused.
Yeah. I mean, that's one show I regret not going. I can't remember why I didn't go. That was the only time I
Yeah.
didn't see Banter when they came through, Dallas on national tours.
Memories. All right, guys.
Hey, thanks for your time.
Thanks
It's
again
been
for doing
great.
it, Kenny. We appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you, man.
We're going to sign off. Take care, everybody.
All right, bye.
See you later.
Till next